Welcome back, New York Giants fans. I am super excited to get back at it for my 5th episode of the Gettleman Project. If you are new to these videos, basically what it is, it's a simulation, a mock draft, of where I put myself through different various scenarios that I think Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants could potentially face in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft. So far, we've already done 4 episodes. In the first episode, I traded down from 6 to 11, and we filled in our holes that way. It allowed us to get more picks, as well as a future pick in the following year's draft, to potentially trade up and acquire a quarterback that way. In our second mock draft, Dwayne Haskins fell in our lap, and we took him. By doing so, we saw the effect it had later in our draft. In our third episode, we traded our second-round pick for Josh Rosen, and we filled in our holes that way. We focused on the defense with the first 2 picks. And then finally, in the last episode, we were jumped for Dwayne Haskins. The Bengals traded up to 4, and Quinnen Williams, who I believe is the best player in this year's draft, fell right in our laps. And I actually think that is the best case scenario. I don't think it will happen, but it's certainly possible. And in this scenario, I'm going to take the fill in the holes approach. But we're going to stay at 6, and we're going to trade down from 17, and you'll see what we do there. We're going to fill in a lot of holes. So I'm really looking forward to doing this mock draft. But as always, what I always like to do before I jump into it is go over our biggest needs. In my opinion, the Giants have 4. Their 4 biggest needs, and I think most people would agree with this, in no specific order, is the aging quarterback Eli Manning needs to be replaced within the next 2 years. We need to get a pass rusher. Edge rusher or wherever, rush from the interior, we need to get some kind of pass rush. We have not had it over the last 4 years, really. It's been non-existent. We need a cornerback. Our cornerback core is very thin, and Jack Rabbit, he's still an average corner. Sam Bill, we don't know what we have. He's a rookie. We need some depth to the cornerback position. So that needs to be addressed at some point in this draft. And the offensive line. The right tackle is just a joke. We need to fill that in as well. And we could use some depth at the center position. So there you go. There's our 4 biggest needs. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's get to pick number 1. Here we are at pick number 1. The Cardinals are up. And the board looks awfully familiar because it's the same board I've had in almost all my mock drafts. Because this is the top 5 as of today that I think will happen. The Arizona Cardinals are up at 1, and I think they're going to go Kyler Murray. Where there is smoke, there is fire. I'm sure I will do a simulation where the Cardinals do not take Murray, but in this one, I'm going to stick with that. The 49ers need an edge rusher. Nick Bosa fits the bill. He fits their defense perfectly. Niners go Bosa at 2. The same exact thing could be said for the Jets. Now, the Jets could go Quinnen Williams. I think Quinnen Williams, as I've said, is the best player in this year's draft, but I think Josh Allen fits them better. I think he's exactly what they need. A guy off that edge, and especially since they stayed with the 3-4 defense, there's not a better prospect to fit that defense than Josh Allen. At 4, the Raiders go best player available. May not fit them perfectly, but they can't pass up the talent at 4. And then finally at 5, the Bucs stay with what they've been doing. They go middle linebacker with Devin White. So that brings us up at number 6. Now, this is going to be slightly different than what I've done in the past because I know going in, I have a trade in place where I'm going to be trading down from 17, and we're going to be filling in holes. So I'm going to have a different approach with my first overall selection at number 6. Let's get right into it. So here we are at pick number 6, and we've been through this situation now twice. One time we had a quarterback in place with Josh Rosen. The other time we took our quarterback, Dwayne Haskins. But this is going to be different because we're trading down from 17. And I don't think there's going to be an elite pass rusher when we're going to be picking. You're going to see the trade when we get to 17 in a minute. But knowing that, and knowing how good the pass rushers are in this year's draft, and knowing, in my opinion, that is the Giants' biggest need, we have to go pass rusher here at 6 because we're not going to have a pick at 17. And by the time we get to our pick after that, they're going to be off the board. There's too much talent here, and I took Montez Sweat in this situation last time because I do think he fits our defense very well. An edge rusher in the 3-4, and he is the most athletic edge rusher left. He had an unbelievable combine, 4.41 40. Everybody knows the story. But Ed Oliver just blew me away. So I am going to go Ed Oliver here at 6. I think he is just an animal. I mean, 291 pounds. He ran a 4.71 40. And when you look at the film, this guy's ridiculous. He really is. And all quarterbacks say that they would much rather get pressure from the edge than up the middle. When you could collapse that pocket, when you could get a pass rusher like an Aaron Donald, and I'm not going to say he's going to be Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, in my opinion, is the best player in football when you take position out of account. I mean, that's how good he is. But when you could get an elite pass rusher up the middle and collapse that pocket, that makes the quarterback stay a nightmare. And that is what Oliver is going to do at the NFL level. And I would love to have him with the Giants at 6. And I think he is a very realistic possibility after the pro day that he had. So at 6, I'm going Ed Oliver. So let's get back to it. Let's get to pick number 7. At 7, the Jaguars are up, and they're going to go with a good, safe pick here, Jajuan Taylor. Probably the best offensive tackle in this year's draft. Everybody seems to love this guy. Impressed at the combine, and the Jaguars could use some help on that offensive line. At 8, the Detroit Lions are up, and they're going to get a good dual-threat tight end. Very good blocker, very good playmaker out of Iowa, T.J. Hockenson, going to fill in for that void that Eric Ebron left. At 9, the Bills are up. The Bills, they desperately need some help on that offensive line. They're going to get it. Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from Alabama. At 10, John Elway gets the quarterback he's coveted, Drew Lock out of Missouri. At 11, the Bengals will double up. 2 quarterbacks in a row. They're getting great value here with Dwayne Haskins. Yes, Dalton has 2 more years left on his contract, but the Bengals need some spark to that team. They need something for the future, and Dalton just isn't it. Haskins falls into their lap at 11. They take him. At 12, the Packers are up, and the Packers are going to take who they have as the best player on their board. They've addressed the edge rushers in free agency. They could certainly go with a Rashawn Gary here. They could use some interior presence. They've got Amos in the safety. They need to continue to focus on that defense. That's exactly what they do when they get Greedy Williams. The Dolphins are up at 13, and the Dolphins are going to go with a player here who probably has the highest ceiling of anyone left in this draft. Either him or Gary, in my opinion. And they're going to get Montez Sweat. Had an unbelievable combine, and the Dolphins are going to be impressed here at 13. Falcons, I've had them going Burns a lot. I wanted to switch it up, and we had Gary full here. A lot of people have Gary going earlier. I got Rashawn Gary going to the Falcons at 14. I've seen a lot of mocks where the Falcons are interested in Ed Oliver, who, of course, we already have off the board to the Giants. Gary's very similar. A guy that's very athletic, could get a push up front. I like him going to the Falcons. 15 to the Redskins. Redskins need to punch that offense, and they're going to get it. DK Metcalf. Boomer bust here, but a lot of talent. And at 15, I think you got to be happy if it falls there. At 16, the Panthers are up, and they're going to go with a good safe pick here in Andre Dillard. Yes, they brought back Darrell Williams on a 1-year contract. He's been banged up, but Dillard can play the other tackle spot. Really like this pick here by the Panthers as they continue to shore up that offensive line. And that brings us to 17. And normally we'd be picking here, but we're going to trade down, and here's the trade. So here's the trade, folks. The Raiders are going to give up the 24th pick and the 35th overall selection, their second-round pick, for the 17th pick and the 95th pick, the 2 picks that we acquired in the trade with Odell Beckham. Now, before I started this mock, I tried to come up with a scenario where it could make sense. I needed a player to fall to 17 that would make sense for a team, and I needed a team that the Giants would potentially trade with where they could fill in multiple assets early on in the draft. And the Raiders fit nicely. And the player that dropped was Brian Burns. The Raiders really, really, really need an edge rusher. They, of course, lost Khalil Mack with that trade last year. And if Brian Burns ever fell to 17, I think it might make sense for the Raiders to potentially want to move up. Now, of course, the Giants could stand pat and take Brian Burns. But for the sake of the mock, for the sake of the situation, I wanted to simulate a trade. So here it is. That's the trade. So right back to the draft. The Raiders, as we said, go Brian Burns, the edge rusher from Florida State. The Vikings are up, and they have to fill their biggest need. And Cody Ford is here. Love this kid out of Oklahoma. Very athletic. I'd be happy if the Giants took him at 17. Vikings get him here. 19, the Titans are up. Titans need a playmaker. Best playmaker left on the board, in my opinion, is either Hollywood Brown or Noah Fant. Noah Fant is terrific. Reminds me of Jimmy Graham. Love him to the Titans. 20, Steelers. Steelers fill in one of their biggest needs. DeAndre Baker from Georgia. Absolutely love this kid. I've had the Giants taking him as well. He falls to the Steelers here at 20. 21, the Seahawks. The Seahawks should go a lot of ways here. They go secondary. They go pass rusher. They go offensive line. Their offensive line is very subpar. And I like this kid, Garrett Bradbury. And so I'm going to have the Seahawks taking him at 21. 22, the Ravens. The Ravens have not addressed this wide receiver position for quite some time. They have a quarterback who needs help. He really needs as much help as you can get him. And that's what they do. They get him Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma. The Texans are up at 23. And the Texans, Deshaun Watson got sacked more than anyone in football last year. They need to go offensive line here, in my opinion. That's what they do. They go Dalton Reisner, which brings us up at 24 after the trade. Let's find out what I do. So here I am at 24. And to me, it's really between 2 names. I could have went quarterback with Daniel Jones, but I think he's more of a second-round talent. It was between Byron Murphy, the corner, and Clayton Farrell. Clayton Farrell fell here. He may not be here in the draft. He could easily go in the mid-teens, but I could see him dropping. And in this situation, Farrell's still on the board at 24. I couldn't pass him up. I love Murphy. I would love to address the corner position. And we've gotten Ed Oliver, so we've already addressed the pass rush a little bit, but we have not gotten an edge rusher. Now, Farrell at 24 projects a little bit better probably in the 4-3 system, but I can't pass it up. We need to get after the quarterback. And when you pair him with Oliver, we're making big changes here. Get me Farrell at 24, and let's get back to the draft at 25. Let's see who goes next. So here we are. We're right back at it, and the Eagles are up at 25, and they're going to take the best available player on my board. That is Byron Murphy, the cornerback. The Colts are up at 26, and they need some help on that defense. The offense is pretty straight, but they're going to get some push up the middle with Dexter Lawrence. The Raiders at 27 are going to address the running back position. They certainly need to do it, and there's a really good player left on the board. The best available running back in this year's draft, Josh Jacobs. 28, the Chargers are jumping for joy as Devin Bush has fallen into their lap. Absolutely love this kid. Had a great combine. Almost had him going at 24 to my Giants. 29, the Chiefs are up, and the Chiefs need an edge rusher. They absolutely do with the departure of Houston and D Ford, and they get that in Jalen Ferguson. 30, the Packers add some punch to the offense as they get Aaron Rodgers a new toy in A.J. Brown. 31, the Rams get Christian Wilkins. They don't have a lot of holes. They're just going to go for the best player on their board. At 32, I should have mentioned this earlier in the draft, I need to simulate where I think Josh Rosen is going. If the Cardinals are taking Kyler Murray at 1, they're obviously trading Josh Rosen. And in this mock, they traded him to the Patriots for the 32nd overall selection. So they're going to have 2 picks in a row. And at 32, they go Paris Campbell. They get their quarterback some help, and they double up with the help for their quarterback at 33 as they go out and they get him a tackle in Yadni Kajus. 34, the Colts are up, and the Colts are going to get some more help for that defense. And they get good value here with Ja'Kai Polite, the D-end out of Florida. Which brings us to the New York Giants, who are picking at 35 after that trade. Who are we going to take? I'm up here at 35, and I've already addressed my defense a lot. I've gotten a pass rusher up the middle and on the outside. So to me, I'm looking at either the quarterback position or offensive line. Daniel Jones is still here. And I could go Daniel Jones. I definitely could. And from what I've seen from Daniel Jones in the film, he is starting to impress me somewhat. But offensive line is very important, and I have a pick and 2 picks. So if I want to go Jones, I could go with him at 37. I don't think that the Niners are taking a quarterback. So at 35, I'm going to address the offensive line. I'm going to get a tackle. It's going to be my starting right tackle this year, Greg Little. Now, Greg Little has dropped down mocks. Early in the process, he was going in the top 10, 12, 15 picks. He's since fallen down a bit. A lot of people think he may not make it as a tackle, but I'm going to take the chance here at 35. A lot of people think he may have to transfer to the guard. I'm going to take that chance with Greg Little here at 35. I think you're getting good value. I think you're getting very high upside. And I like him here to the Giants. He fills a need. 36, I'm just going to tell you, Deebo Samuel is going to the Niners, and we're right back at it at 37. And at 37, at this point, I've addressed the offensive line. I've got my pass rush. There's no corners who blow me away. I'm going to take a shot with Daniel Jones, the quarterback out of Duke. I think he fits in nicely as a guy that could learn under Eli. They both learned under the same coach in college. And Jones does have a lot of talent. He does. He's not... I like Haskins more. There's no doubt about it. But at 37, you're getting good value. You're not going to have to pay him a whole hell of a lot. So you're not taking that big of a gamble. If he doesn't work out, you dump him in 2 years. And I think he fits here. He's got underrated athleticism. He ran a 4.61 40, I think, at his pro day. And he can throw the rock. I'm going to take a shot here with Jones at 37. So there you have it. I addressed the quarterback position later in the draft. I addressed my offensive tackle. We addressed the pass rush. We need to focus on the corner later in this draft. We need to focus on more depth on the offensive line. But I think all in all, I think we filled a lot of holes in this scenario. I'd like to get your guys' take. What would you have done differently? What did you like that I did? What didn't you? As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.